What you're seeing right now is my third attempt at getting my writing done for the day. I ended up deleting the first two sessions I did earlier because, to be frank, I didn't really get much of anything written. Yeah, so I mentioned obviously yesterday I finished up a lot of the words that I had written on my cafe day, and yesterday was just about finishing up basically the scene that I'd been working on. So that scene is done. Today was the start of an entirely new scene, and I just didn't know how to start it. So today was a lot of just sitting at the computer, just thinking it over, just trying to figure out how I was going to write the scene and how it was going to go. I think overall, what I ended up choosing to start it, yeah, I could take or leave it. Basically, I went in basically doing kind of a more of a summary to a scene that's rather important. So I'm thinking in my mind I'm probably gonna have to end up rewriting it instead of doing summary. End up just showing like an in media res scene instead to really get the sort of action done. But summary kind of felt right, and I was able to get at least something down tonight, which is in its own way good. It's at least got me a bit further into the scene, so that way I can now kind of switch now to more of a summary tomorrow. And if I have to later, sort of revise the first couple, the first page or so of what I wrote, it's not the end of the world. I talk a lot about not wanting to necessarily do work that stands in as a placeholder, or write things that you're going to end up needing to change later. But tonight was just something where it was partly just out of the sense that I need to get something down. So unfortunately, I kind of broke my own rule in a sense, but I am pretty satisfied with what I did too. There is a certain I could definitely argue that it came out better with me writing a summary section versus an entire scene section. But to avoid kind of boring anybody with going into that, that's basically what I chose, and it's kind of what I stuck with. I've said before that the beginning of whatever you're writing is always the most sacred aspect of what you write. When you get into any kind of project, any kind of chapter, scene, even the start of your book too, the beginning is the most important aspect because that informs how the rest of the story goes. I've used the analogy before of laying down tile, where you have to get the first piece of tile correct so that way everything else can kind of sprout from that. It's the same thing with starting the scene. I have it's how you start it and how you decide to write it at the beginning is going to influence the shape of the rest of that scene. So if the beginning's not good, the rest of the thing is not gonna suddenly magically correct itself as it goes along. It does, the writing process just doesn't work that way. The beginning part needs to be correct so that way you can go forward. And so, yeah, I mean that's just why it took so long to get done today. I was trying to come up with something good, something that was gonna work. I tried a few different things, and it just ultimately didn't really, kind of pay off to the end of the night. And with that, there's although the day although the day wasn't that great overall, the war with the idea of doing the right every day is that the war, for back of a term, the fighting, whatever you want to call it, there is just getting the work done, right? It's in the doing of the act. The doing of the act is what matters, not so much the kind of the end result, right? It's like the Stephen Pressfield War of Art, philosophy of just, if you're going to be professional, you have to show up every single day and write, and that's all that matters. That's pretty true, and that's kind of what this right everyday thing is about, is the idea of just showing up, and regardless of whether it's a good or bad day, whether you spend the whole day just staring at a blank screen trying to figure this thing out, The fact that you showed up is what matters. And so hopefully, like I said, I said before the analogy of fishing, sitting down is just like fishing for the muse. So I sat down, I cast a line today, didn't happen to work. Gonna be back tomorrow, gonna cast a line again, and hopefully I'll get a bite. But we'll see.